Chris Forian, Leicester Till I Die fanzine, joins us again right now. Chris, thank you very much for being with us tonight here on TalkTV and the Sunday Night Club. I'm surprised a little bit by all of this. We know all these clubs go away. They all say they're tired out. They're all this, they're all that. They'll only get halfway through the season before they're all moaning again. But I don't like this. And what I don't like in many ways is, you know, one of their big pre-season matches here just ruined by a rainy season that turns into the monsoon season very shortly. And we shouldn't be surprised.
No, and I guess we shouldn't be surprised that the Ashes has ended in the way it has with the rain, or that we lost a couple of days to Wimbledon. I mean, the one thing we can't be surprised about anymore is the weather, we're being told. And look, I'd love it still to be sort of a Premier League a warmer, but of course we're not in that league anymore. No. But this was planned for Leicester, and it's got to be planned in advance, and it was planned before we knew we were going to get relegated. And of course, our owners are from Thailand, so they want to take us there. They want to show us off. The fans are brilliant, that they love us, they've taken us to their hearts. But of course, we can't go during the season. So they've got to go out of season. For me, and you're going to upset some fans if you do one thing, other fans if you do something else. And, you know, a lot of fans say, oh, you know, we should be a big club now. We've won the Premier League. We've won the FA Cup. We should be challenging for the top 5. Well, if we want to be challenging for the top 5, we've got to find some new revenue streams, because otherwise we're going to be in the position that we've been in last season with FFP, which was the main factor that we didn't sort of get many players in, and we probably ended up getting relegated. But then again, you're going to upset there and say, well, I like to go to, you know, Peterborough on a wet Tuesday night or whatever, and you're not going to please everybody. But it is our owner's homeland. He wanted to show us off. Last time we went to Thailand, it didn't end up in very good circumstances with some of the youth players. I think the disappointing thing for me was that it took so long for them to decide to call it off.
Yeah.
It should have been kicking off at 11. I think it was about 11:45 by the time that it was finally decided. They kept saying, we'll make a decision in 4 minutes. And then 10 minutes later, it was, well, give us another 5. And they're trying to paint the white lines back on while it's still raining. I mean, the clues were there. I mean, you know, most of us fans were sat in. I was watching it on the stream on the club's website, and I'm looking at that thinking, that game's not going to go ahead.
Absolutely.
I mean, a few years ago, one of our ex-players, Steve Lynex, is famous for sort of taking a swim in a game against Southampton, which, you know, he was fouled, he went over and he did the breaststroke, and that game was called off. This game, he could have dived off a 10-foot diving board and still come up. It was so obvious, and the question is, why wasn't that decision taken earlier?
Yeah.
But it's awkward with us for Thailand, because, like I say, I understand why the owners want to go there. It is their country. They want to show us off.
Well, I mean, as you said, this was obviously signed up even before that you knew you went down. But I also understand, and I've looked at social media and the disappointment of some fans thinking, you know, we've got to be real as well this season. We have to have, you know, a pre-season that works for us now with what we have to do in the Championship, which we all know is a league from start to finish that if you haven't, as a lot of your fans have said, got the legs right the way through here, you can falter at exactly the wrong time.
We can, and there's still a lot of work to do. You know, we've let a lot of players go. We've actually probably got a net smaller team now than we had when we were relegated, but a lot of players have gone. We are slowly getting other players in, but like I said, this was planned. It's like my son's getting married in a couple of weeks. I said, what are you doing getting married when the season's kicking off? And he said, but Dad, we were in the Premier League when we planned this. We shouldn't have been kicking off yet. So, you know, you don't know what's going to happen. No. And then you've got to think about, well, if you start cancelling everything, what are the charges going to be? And we can't afford to throw money away like that because, you know, the stadium might have charged us. I think the next game we've got is in a week's time against Liverpool, and that's in Singapore. And I have a feeling that stadium's actually got a retractable roof.
So that'll be right.
But, yeah, I mean...
Do you have a sense how... I mean, for me as well, I know that you're in the Championship now, and... when we're doing, by the way, just to let all the Sunday night clubbers know that we've got in 2 weeks' time, we're going to do a really big football league show, looking ahead to all of the matches to come and those and everything, and how the pre-seasons have gone throughout all of the divisions, which is just as important to many of us these days. A lot of supporters sort of turning back away from the Premier League, can't afford to go with the whole of their family anymore to watch these top clubs with ridiculous prices, even as we've seen with the likes of Sheffield Wednesday now, and lots of people horrified by how much they have to pay and how a lot of clubs are broke and what have you, Chris. But for Leicester City, this is again a vitally important season for them, and you do want them to get off to a good start if you're a Leicester City fan. And you want to have got inside them everything they need to do, or else, you know, we're straight into the games, 2 a week, 3 a week, and off we go. And you're playing catch up if you haven't got yourself sorted.
We've got Coventry at home in the first games. I'm sure that's going to be 3 points for us anyway. So I had to get that dig in.
Of course, I know, but we all know that everybody can beat everybody in what's the most brilliant league and the most competitive league.
It is. It's probably in Europe, once you get past the Premier League, you know, the Bundesliga, Ligue 1, and the French and the Spanish and all that, probably the 6th toughest league in Europe. And we're not, you know, taking it lightly. And we've also got to look on the flip side. This time last season, we haven't signed a player. You know, we hadn't signed a player, or we didn't sign a player until Fofana walked out on us. And this season, we've done the business. Barnes has gone today, so that's fine. You know, there's a couple that we've been very, very strongly linked with. The guy from, I think, Montpellier used to play for Arsenal. Don't ask me to pronounce his name. I'm useless with names like that. He should be coming through the door. So we've done a lot of signings early on, and the signings that we've done have been good signings. You know, we've got 2 ex-Premier League players in in Winks and Cody. You know, so I'm not too worried, because it's not about numbers. Because, you know, you can look at clubs like Forest. I mean, you know, how many players they brought in. But we've got a very good youth system. And people look, I think a lot of fans look at clubs these days and go, well, if you don't buy anybody, so you're doing something wrong. Yeah, you've got to get it right, though. And we've made some very, very good signings. We've also got some very good youth players that are going to be breaking through this season. And they've had a bit of trouble with injuries last season, but they were on the verge. And, yeah, I think put those two things together, I don't think it's not all doom and gloom at Leicester.
So, no, it's not at all. And I like the way that you talk there about some of the youngsters to come through. You mentioned Harvey Barnes there on his way to Newcastle, 39 million. Do you, as fans, do you want... I mean, I think we all agree it's got out of hand, the amount of money that is being thrown about at a time when people just, you know, have to watch how much they've even got in their pocket to go and do anything with the family at the moment.
Football, I mean, it's not on this planet, is it? It's completely different. The finance, if a lot of all these big companies were run like, you know, some of these football clubs are run, they'd be going out of business a lot quicker than they actually are. Look, the money's ridiculous. Everything is ridiculous. I did a show the other day about shirt prices, because Leicester had admitted to being a little bit naughty with a sports company and setting the prices of the shirts. And I think that was disgusting. And I've got 4 kids, and it was like, we buy new kits every single year now. It's not every 2 or 3 years, it's every single year. Then you got the second strip, then you got the third strip. Why do we need a third strip? Because we're paying all these wages for these players. And we're kind of caught in the middle, because we're not a Chelsea, you know, we're not a Newcastle now. But what we've got is good owners that, on the whole, yeah, we had a blip last season, but on the whole, they will spend the money wisely. And they'll go out, and that 38 million will, allow us to buy probably 2 players. And so, and we know when you get relegated, and because of the situation that happened last year, we had to cut our cloth accordingly. We knew Maddison was going. We knew Barnes was going. They were our most bankable assets.
Yeah.
And so they had to go. I will start to get worried if we start to sell too many other what we would call first teamers. Because you've got to hold on to some of those. But yeah, I mean, football, it's not the game that it was, when you used to go and you could have a great game. I mean, the costs now, I don't live in Leicester, so the travelling for me,
sure,
the petrol, the food. Thankfully, out of the 4 children, only one of them's really got into football, so I can watch the price a bit easier now. But, it is just ridiculous. But we all know that they screamed and screamed during COVID that they wanted the fans back, and it was all about the fans. How long did that last?
Yeah.
It's not. It's about the money, unfortunately.
No, and it does leave a bad taste at that top end. And I was again looking at Sheffield Wednesday, who've put their prices up a lot of money. And again, families who have been season ticket holders can no longer afford to go and do that. There's no sense of what is going on in the real world at the moment, and yet. What I think is beginning to happen lower down the leagues now, even though a lot of clubs have had their problems, is that fans and families are turning back to the sides in their own areas where they live. And once they get supporting those sides, they really feel, OK, the football and the superstars might not be there all the time, but it doesn't matter. We feel part of this, and that in itself makes it just as exciting.
When I live on the south coast, and when I came down here, I've been a Leicester fan all my life. I was born in Leicester. You don't choose Leicester unless you're born there. But I moved down to the south coast, and I live in Poole, just outside Bournemouth. And my son said to me, we're going to go and start watching Bournemouth so we could, go and see a game. And I went, no. And it feels like cheating. It's like having an affair. But we went to go and started watching Poole Town, who were a non-league club. And yet proper grassroots football, and you stood behind the goal next to a guy that's effing and blinding towards the team, and he happens to be the owner, and you end up, and I ended up sort of being a steward. Then I was working on the turnstile, because that way I could sit in a box when it was raining, but you just felt part of it.
Yes.
And that. I saw, when I was there, Charlie Austin was just leaving to start his career. And I know it's an often used word, real football.
Yeah.
But it is, it is true. How often you would never, well, very rarely would you be sat next to the owner of the football club, when you go to watch a Premier League or a Championship team. But yeah, there's a lot to be said for football. That, and people can't travel as much, and so they will start to go to the local clubs, and I think it's a shame when you see the likes of the Bury and clubs like that, and it's great to see that they're back in the ground now. You see teams like that struggle, and it rips the heart out of towns.
It absolutely does. Chris, look, it's been a delight to talk to you, and I'm sure we'll talk again